Well, first of all, to you both, brilliant work. I was so impressed and happy to read that story. I wish more journalists would jump into the cesspool that are the issues surrounding child welfare. I'll start with you, Anna. So if you could just explain what happens when a social worker calls the hospital for a birth alert.
Yeah, so thanks so much for having us, first of all. So we know once an expectant parent is flagged, the hospital will alert the social worker team once the baby's been born. And in BC, we also know that almost 30% of the time the infant is apprehended. Mm-hmm. Now, this is really concerning because it breaches the parent's privacy as personal information is shared without their consent between these two large social service bodies, healthcare and child welfare services. Mm-hmm. And through this, we also know that Indigenous children, youth, and families are grossly overrepresented in all facets of the child welfare system. So it actually came to no surprise that 2018, 2019, of the birth alerts that were issued, 58% of them were issued towards Indigenous families. So the practice of birth alerts, of course, ended in September 2019, but still occur elsewhere in Canada, with one of the most recent cases happening in Brandon, Manitoba over the Christmas holidays.
Yeah, I did that story. And I would also say that not only does it lead to oftentimes apprehension when there's a birth alert tagged to your file, but oftentimes it's flimsy apprehensions, right? It's on flimsy grounds that it's just like on paper this looks like it's the case and that's good enough for us to take kids, and then good luck getting your kids back. Bailey, my next question would be to you. You know, government lawyers in BC had told the Ministry of Children and Family Development that it was illegal and unconstitutional and it was a risk of litigation, these birth alerts. How did the province respond?
Yeah, so we're aware of a memo. We don't have the memo, but we're aware of one that was sent on May 6th in 2019 that said birth alerts were illegal and unconstitutional in British Columbia. But the ministry didn't actually end the practice until September of that year. So there's a months-long gap. And they've moved now to what they call a voluntary support model, which is something that Anna actually will be following up on to give more detail to in the coming days. To our knowledge, it was also confirmed with the MCFD by BC's Privacy Commissioner that birth alerts go against BC's Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. So they're like doubly not legal, if that makes sense. Yep. However, under that act, they are also not obligated to tell anyone if they've previously violated their privacy. It's up to their discretion. So MCFD has actually told us that their focus has been forward-looking. That's what they've said to us in an email statement. So essentially, they haven't told any of these parents that they violated their privacy, or not, at least not the bulk of them, from our knowledge.
Anna, why should parents be concerned about what's going on?
Well, frankly, it's a privacy issue. Parents should be concerned about how their information is being used once they've been flagged. Also, this is tangible proof that the BC government was aware that what they were doing was wrong, and it's, in my opinion, a continuation of the legacy of taking Indigenous children away from our respective families and communities. And families that have been impacted need to know that this is going on. The broader public needs to know that this is going on because this is a human rights issue. So really everyone should be concerned, not just parents.
Yeah, and you know, what are advocates saying about this when you pose this to them? Like, what's been going on? And like, as you had said too, this isn't just in BC. I mean, your story is focused on BC, but these birth alerts happen all over the place. This is contrary to the Missing Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls National Inquiry. They specified like these things need to stop. Child welfare is causing so much, inflicting so much harm on women, taking their kids, and then women spiral and they end up in situations that then they from there end up missing or dead. So I'm curious, back to you, and what are advocates saying about as this is all kind of being revealed?
Well, our team at IndigiNews, we were sitting on this information for a little while before we published the story, so it's been really interesting to see it sort of catch fire in the community, not just with Indigenous advocates, but non-Indigenous advocates as well. So we had reached out to Mary Ellen Terpelafon, who was really helpful in helping us put together the story. And I'm really excited to see all the other folks that are going to come forward and share their voices and opinions as we work on a number of follow-up stories over the next coming weeks. So we're just at a point right now where I think the information is just really digesting with a lot of folks, and that there's going to be a continuation and some actions that will be coming out of this.
Bailey, in the story, it says that a government lawyer wanted you to give back the information. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so we filed our FOI in October. I feel like I need to give a little timeline to this. We filed in October, and I got our information back on the 9th of December. So we got 66 pages of information, which has actually been published in our story. There's a link. Some of that information had already been redacted due to solicitor-client privilege when I received the initial FOI package, which is something standard. I expected that. We started working on the story, and then when we contacted the Attorney General and the Ministry of Children and Family Development last week, we got a letter from one of their lawyers saying they had released some of this information to us in error that should have been redacted due to the same reasoning. And so it's 4 whole pages that they were hoping to redact. It's not lines. It's just like 4 whole pages that we got in this email. They're like, please don't issue this. We haven't waived solicitor-client privilege, but we at this point had been working on this story for weeks, and we felt, you know what, this is in the public interest. We need to publish the story because it doesn't seem like information that anyone has, and you know, this potentially has the impact on like thousands of people. So yeah, we kind of were like, yeah, we're going to publish it anyways, because we think that that's what's right.
Anna, I'll give the last question to you. You said that this is something you guys are continuing to work on. What can we expect next from IndigiNews on this file? And is your work going to extend to other provinces and territories?
Yeah, so we're working on a story just looking at birth alerts occurring in other provinces and territories. We're looking further into BC, what voluntary supports are being offered. And we're also looking at doing sort of a reflection piece on what that's meant for us in IndigiNews to break a story like this and what it's meant for us personally. So just on my end, being an Indigenous mom, being somebody that experienced that very visceral fear while I was in hospital, I really feel strongly that giving that personal reflection will really help with the overall story. And we just want to keep going because birth alerts are still happening in Canada and they need to stop.
Well, I thank both of you for joining us and for this amazing work that you're doing. Keep it up, and we will have you back on next time you break something this incredibly bombshelly, right? Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.